Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa. I am Client Relationship Manager for ProductSpace Solutions. Thank you all for joining our 15-minute QuickBytes session. We appreciate and value your time. All phones will be muted the entire time, so should you have any questions, I encourage you to post them throughout the presentation. We will also be happy to entertain any questions offline. Our contact information is on your screen, and we will also post again after presentation. QuickBytes is a 15-minute weekly educational series that ProductSpace conducts to help customers understand the latest available PLM and CAD technology solutions. Today's QuickBytes topic is PTC Performance Monitor. PTC Performance Monitor is a continuous monitoring tool for Windchill that helps system administrators monitor the application proactively and to quickly diagnose and resolve stability and performance issues in the system. The proper use of this tool can help your windshield running like a well-oiled machine. I will now turn it over to Ravi to begin our presentation.
Thank you, Melissa, and thanks to everybody for joining today. My name is Ravi Damalingam, and I manage the Product Support Services division at ProductSpace. So we'll cover PTC System Monitor from a high-level perspective today, primarily dealing with out-of-the-box functionality. As system administrators, we are all constantly working on ways to make our systems more stable and perform better. And from my experience, PTC System Monitor can help us greatly in that regard. So as far as topics, we'll start with giving an overview of the APM framework, which is the underlying technology used by PTC System Monitor. We'll give some installation guidelines, though we'll not cover installation in detail as it's discussed very well in the installation guide. We'll cover two major use case scenarios that you would use the System Monitor for, one being monitoring and the second one for diagnostics. Then we'll talk about how you could access the system through your mobile devices and then considerations for deployment. So at a high level, PTC System Monitor is a continuous monitoring framework which is based on CompuWare's APM technology. So continuous monitoring is basically accomplished by placing sensors or instrumenting your Java code within the Windchill JVM to give us detailed information on transactions, the response time, and so on. So the reason we are able to use the continuous monitoring framework is due to the low overhead. So these kind of tools have been in place in development environments for a while and are gaining acceptance in production of late, primarily because they have been fine-tuned, so the overhead that they incur by running in production is fairly low now. So using this tool will help us to reduce the mean time to resolve issues, and it can also help in improving Windchill performance issues or diagnosing and resolving performance issues quickly. So here's another snapshot view of the framework. Essentially, it has three components. An agent, which is primarily a bunch of libraries that gets embedded into the JVM framework that's being monitored, and then a collector which gathers information from the agent and the server that aggregates all the information and displays it in dashboards or provides access to the information to be displayed in dashboards. Another view of the framework, one of the key things is the collector and the agent have a lot of communication between them. So you need to make sure the collector and an agent reside within a single local area network. So if you have multiple file servers in geographically dispersed locations, you would want to have a collector in each of those locations, a collector and an agent in each of those locations, and all of them could in turn be talking to a single server which would aggregate all the information and display it in a single dashboard. So here are some notes on installation. Installation is fairly straightforward from my experience. So some of the notes, some of the key things to observe are we want to have the system monitor installed on a separate server for production environments. Part of it is due to performance, and partly also from a monitoring standpoint. If the system goes down, you want to have your monitoring software outside of the system so it can detect it. So the collector, as we discussed earlier, should be located in the same local area network as the agent. So this requires that for your file servers, you configure separate collectors. You want to configure a separate Oracle or a SQL Server repository for optimal performance of your performance warehouse. Configure system monitor to use LDAP with groups and roles if you're planning to open access to a wider audience within your organization. And lastly, if you to simplify the installation process, you might want to consider creating configuration files and use command line tools to install. So if you, for whatever reason, you have to reinstall system monitor, you don't have to go through the whole installation process all over. So once the installation is complete, you can access the dynaTrace interface through either port 8020 or 8021, depending on whether you configured HTTP or HTTPS. So the main page gives you access to all the functions that you can access through dynaTrace. The view dashboards and reports gives you HTML browser-based access to the reports. The primary interface that we would work most of the time is the dynaTrace client, which is a web start client, which has a bunch of dashboards that are already pre-built into it. You have some system profiles that come preloaded with the system. You can create additional profiles, but the profiles that are loaded already have several predefined transactions that you should be able to use immediately. So here are some of the dashboards that are in the system out of the box. So one of the key things to observe is the dashboards are numbered so that the diagnostic dashboards are prefixed with D and the monitoring dashboards are prefixed with M. And the ones that are in the 100s are the ones that have the most value. The other ones have secondary data. The ones that we use most of the time would be the ones that are in the 100s. So the method server incident dashboard is one that you would find frequent use for. Essentially, if there is an issue reported in the system, this might be one of the first dashboards you might want to take a look to see if there was some issue going on. And from this dashboard, you can drill down to identify what might have caused that issue. The system health gives you a good snapshot view of the overall health of the system. And again, as we talked about, if you have multiple file servers, all that information is aggregated and displayed in this dashboard. If there was an issue with a particular file server somewhere, you could see a red box displayed as shown here. And all these dashboards can be set to refresh at different frequencies, and that's configurable by the user. So this is again the same dashboard with the file server issue resolved. But one thing to observe here is the box didn't turn into green completely. So you still see the red box at the end. This is just an indication to us that there was an incident that happened recently, and that interval period is configurable, but it just serves as an indication that okay, there was an incident that occurred recently. The host health dashboard is another one that you could use frequently. Essentially, it gives you a snapshot of your system resources on the host system that's running Windchill. Essentially, your disk space usage, CPU, memory usage, and this is something you would find use for. Another thing that we would want to configure in the system is create rules for when incidents are generated. So we want to make sure we identify the critical issues that are important for our system and configure rules so that alerts are generated for them. So one of the key things to note here is you want to make sure you get all the critical alerts, but without generating too many alerts that the admin is overwhelmed with them. And one other nice feature that to take advantage of is to suppress alerts during scheduled downtime windows. So you don't have alerts coming out when there is a regularly scheduled maintenance window. So out of the box, the system has been configured for measuring certain activities. And you can, of course, add new measures. But obviously, you could start with what's already configured. And one of the things you might consider is updating the thresholds that are configured out of the box. I mean, these might not be the ideal values for your environment. You might want to establish what kind of performance you are aiming for in your system and set these thresholds accordingly. So the next major area that you would use the system monitor is for diagnostics. So when there are issues reported by end users or issues reported by a group of users, you want to use the system monitor as a tool to quickly identify these issues. So for example, if there was a file server or users in a particular site reporting system issues, you might want to take a look at the file server incident dashboard. That might show you, okay, some file server had some issue, which you could be able to drill down from there and find out the root cause. One of the common issues we face typically is, or we encounter as system admins, is performance-related issues, and that too particularly workspace and CAD performance-related issues. The out-of-the-box system monitor has several business transactions that monitor workspace-related activities, and those serve as a convenient platform for us to diagnose these kind of problems. So for example, if somebody had a major performance issue with checking in a large assembly, you could look at the workspace operations dashboard, filter to that user, and then drill down to the pure path associated with that transaction. So this could give us details on to the level of what specific API consumes the most time, and from there you could even drill down and identify a specific SQL statement that was causing this issue. Hence, I mean, helping us diagnose and hopefully resolve the issue quickly. One other thing you might want to consider is linking the system monitor to the system configuration collector, which is a nice capability to send information quickly to tech support when you open calls. So this way, when you open calls, along with the system collector packaging other property files and stuff like that, it could also get a snapshot from the system monitor and send this data to the tech support people. Another nice feature that we wanted to inform you about was the availability of a mobile app for the system monitor for dynaTrace client. So you could download this if you have an Android phone, download this from the Android marketplace, and you would be able to log into it using your host name and the port number. So again, this would work based on how you configured dynaTrace, work within your corporate network. But if you would like this to work outside of your office environment, you will have to set up a proxy server to proxy the request to an external network. So the mobile access also gives you all the dashboards that are available in the HTML interface and gives you a convenient way to quickly look at problems. I mean, you got a phone call that there was an issue going on. You can just take a look at the dashboard and identify the issue quickly. I mean, although you might have to log into your machine to eventually resolve the problem, at least it gives us a head start in identifying the problem. A few considerations for deployment. So you want to start with identifying what's important for your organization with regards to performance. Identify the key performance indicators that are important. Establish a baseline performance that you agree with the business community you want to establish for those performance indicators. Set incident rules based on that. Make sure you send email alerts only for really critical or severe tasks. I mean, you could look at all the other ones through the dashboard, but you might want to reserve email alerts for the extremely critical ones. And you might want to consider creating stored sessions of baseline performance so that when there's an issue reported later on, you could go compare it against the baseline performance snapshot and identify which API or which transaction is performing poorly. A few other things you could consider. I mean, System Monitor obviously works well related to the application level monitoring, but you could consider including or using this in tandem with tools like Nagios, which do a much better job on infrastructure level or network monitoring. And since we all know that a good chunk of issues arise due to network, I mean, having other tools work in tandem, I think, allows us to identify issues with the network and so on. Might want to consider linking this to your ticket tracking system. So when users report issues, you could have it automatically generate snapshots for you in the dynaTrace system. So you could have when you look at the ticket, you can look at a snapshot of what was going on in the system. Integration with load testing tools allows you to detect issues before they reach production. There is a testing framework module with dynaTrace for licensing fee, but regardless, you could still consider using existing tools you might have like JMeter or so on with the tool before you release new changes into production. Consider adding the user experience management module. This is again a nice module from CompuWare. Allows you to place sensors at the user level so that the performance of a user from start to end can be tracked. So right now, with the server management portion, we are only tracking the transaction performance on the server side. We are not tracking the performance that the user might be seeing or any browser issues or network issues they might be having. That's not currently tracked. You might consider integrating your dynaTrace dashboards to your other IT monitoring tools, and these the framework allows for integration. The dynaTrace server, and this will also give you the 24 monitoring or 24/7 access to the dashboards. You could, I mean, that we talked about. You can access through your mobile phone or your laptop, even outside your corporate network. With that, I turn it over to Melissa.
Thank you, Ravi. I hope everybody found today's session very insightful and informative. You can view today's session and all QuickBytes sessions on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/QuickBytes videos. If you have any questions or any suggestions for QuickBytes topics, we will be happy to accommodate. The link to submit your suggestion is available on our invite pages. Now we will go ahead and open up the floor for questions. Everyone, please remember, post your questions in our chat room. Our first question today is, Ravi, does it support Intralink, PDM Link, and Windchill 9.1?
So I can confirm that it supports Windchill and PDM Link 9.1. I'm not certain about Intralink, but we can double check and let you know on that.
Sounds good, Ravi. Thank you. We have another question. Can we monitor blocking threads or CAD workers?
You can certainly monitor blocking threads. So essentially, you find an issue with the transaction. You can look at the pure path on that and identify if there are blocking threads that's causing the issue. I think CAD worker is not currently supported, so we will check on that and get back to you.
Sounds good, Ravi. Thank you. Our next question is, what is the approximate performance impact of the monitor?
Based on documentation and from what we have seen, the overhead is fairly low. It's about 3 to 4% overhead, and basically with computing resources being fairly inexpensive today, I think we can easily absorb that overhead, considering the amount of value we gain from this tool.
Sounds good, Ravi. Thank you. We have one more question today. Is this tool iPhone compatible as well? Or I'm sorry, is this app iPhone compatible as well?
So I have tested the app on Android, and there is an app for iPhone, but I believe it requires an analysis server for CompuWare APM, which is not packaged in the PTC system monitor. So I think the current system would only work on Android, but the good news is the web interface for the dynaTrace client is mobile compliant as is. So you could use your Safari browser from iPhone and access the web interface from there, and you should be able to still view your dashboards, your charts, and everything from your browser.
Sounds good, Ravi. Thank you so much. This ends our question and answer portion of this presentation. I want to thank you all again for joining our 15-minute QuickBytes session on PTC Performance Monitor. Our next QuickBytes session will be on September 13th. The topic is Windchill Security Labels. Visit our webpage at www.productspace.com/content/event to register. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Also have a wonderful, safe Labor Day weekend. Goodbye.